You know what's interesting? The moment a woman decides she's no longer chasing approval, the world starts to chase her. The second she stops begging to be seen, people start to notice. The moment she realizes her value isn't up for negotiation, everything changes. But most women don't get there easily. Most of us spend years thinking that being nice, being available, being understanding will make people treat us better. We think if we love harder, they'll love us back. If we stay patient, they'll finally see our worth. But here's the truth. People don't value what's always available. They value what's rare, what's disciplined, what knows how to walk away. You see, there's a difference between being wanted and being respected, between being admired and being valued. Anybody can be wanted for a moment, but only a woman with presence, purpose, and power is valued for a lifetime. That's what we're here to talk about. Because becoming a high-value woman isn't about beauty or money or social media followers. It's not about who desires you. It's about who deserves access to you. It's not about being perfect. It's about being grounded in who you are and what you will no longer tolerate. Somewhere along the way, many of us were taught that being high value meant being hard to get. But that's surface level thinking. The truth is, being high value means being hard to break. It means you've done the inner work, built your emotional armor, and learned how to stand in your own peace, even when the world tries to pull you out of it. And maybe you've been through seasons that made you forget your worth, heartbreaks that shattered your confidence, people who underestimated you, environments that dimmed your light. But what if I told you that those very experiences were the training ground for your rise? That every person who disrespected you was a lesson in self-respect. Every time you were overlooked, it was an invitation to see yourself deeper. Because a high-value woman doesn't emerge from comfort. She's built in the fire of rejection, silence, and self-reflection. She's not someone who has it all figured out. She's someone who refused to stay broken. So today, we're not going to talk about how to impress anyone. We're going to talk about how to become someone who no longer needs to, someone who doesn't explain her worth, doesn't chase attention, and doesn't compromise peace for connection. By the end of this, you'll understand what true feminine strength looks like. Quiet, unshakable, and deeply respected. You'll know what it means to walk into any room without needing to prove anything, because your energy already speaks. So let me ask you something. What if the next version of you doesn't need validation? Only discipline. What if becoming high value isn't about being desired, but being unavailable to anything that drains your soul? What if your power was never lost, only waiting for you to claim it back? Because the moment you do, everything and everyone changes. Knowing your worth is not about arrogance, it's about alignment. It's about finally deciding that your energy, your time, and your love are sacred currencies, and not everyone has earned the right to spend them. Too many people live their lives waiting for someone else to tell them they're good enough. They chase compliments like oxygen, praise like currency, and attention like a mirror that defines their existence. But the truth is, when you let others define your worth, you hand them the power to destroy it. You make your peace conditional. You make your happiness dependent on something you can't control, someone else's opinion. There is something profoundly powerful about a woman who doesn't beg to be understood or validated. She knows that the right people will recognize her value without needing a presentation. The wrong ones could have the best version of her and still not see her. And that's okay. Because her value doesn't shrink to fit someone's limited perception. The mistake many women make is thinking that attention equals worth, that being noticed means being valued. But you can be adored by a crowd and still unseen by yourself. You can be desired and still disrespected. And when you haven't learned to value yourself, you'll settle for the illusion of validation instead of the reality of respect. Knowing your worth starts in the moments when no one claps for you, when no one texts you back, when no one notices the effort you put in. It's in those quiet moments that you learn whether your confidence is real or borrowed. Because if your self-esteem collapses every time you're ignored, that's not confidence, that's dependency, dressed up as strength. True self-worth doesn't fluctuate with the attention you receive. It's a steady flame that doesn't need fuel from outside sources to keep burning. A woman who knows her worth moves differently. She doesn't over-explain her choices. She doesn't chase closure from people who can't meet her halfway. She doesn't overstay in spaces where she's tolerated, instead of appreciated. She understands that peace is more valuable than presence in the wrong environment. When you stop begging for validation, you stop performing for approval. You stop trying to convince people that you're worthy of love, friendship, or opportunity. You realize that the only approval that truly matters is the one you give yourself every night before you close your eyes. But getting to that place requires honesty. It requires looking in the mirror and asking, why do I keep giving my power away? Because that's what chasing validation really is. Self-abandonment in disguise. Every time you shrink to make someone comfortable, every time you silence your voice to keep the peace, every time you accept less than you deserve just to avoid being alone, you teach yourself that your value is negotiable. And once you make your worth negotiable, people will always try to bargain. Here's a truth that's not easy to hear. People treat you based on what you accept, not what you deserve. You can have the kindest heart, the purest intentions, and the most beautiful soul. But if you don't know how to enforce your value, the world will keep taking discounts. That's why knowing your worth is not a mindset. It's a discipline. It's a daily practice of self-respect. It's choosing silence instead of begging for attention. It's choosing solitude instead of being surrounded by people who drain you. It's choosing authenticity over approval, even when that choice costs you connection. When you stop begging for validation, you'll start seeing who's really meant to be in your life. Because the moment you stop performing, the audience thins out. People who were drawn to the version of you that gave too much, stayed too long, and asked for too little will disappear. And that's okay, because the people who remain, those are your tribe. Those are the ones who value you for who you are, not for what they can extract from you. You'll notice something else too. When you start walking in self-worth, your energy becomes magnetic. You'll attract different conversations, different opportunities, different relationships. Why? Because you're no longer operating from a place of lack. You're not begging to be chosen. You're choosing. You're not trying to fit into places that don't respect your presence. You're building spaces that mirror your standards. The world begins to mirror how you see yourself. But here's the part most people overlook. Knowing your worth doesn't mean you'll always feel confident. It means you'll act from integrity, even when doubt creeps in. Confidence isn't the absence of insecurity. It's the decision to not let insecurity make your choices. Some days you'll question yourself. Some days you'll feel invisible. Some days you'll wonder if your silence was a mistake. But you'll keep your peace anyway, because you understand that your reaction to disrespect determines your value far more than the disrespect itself. Every time you choose not to chase validation, you're sending a message, not to others, but to yourself. You're saying, I trust my own worth enough to wait for what's aligned. You're saying, my self-respect is not up for negotiation. You're saying, if I have to lose something to stay true to myself, I didn't lose anything real. And that's the moment you transform from being liked to being respected. In a world that profits off women feeling unworthy, from beauty standards to social media filters, choosing to know your worth is an act of rebellion. It's you saying, I am not defined by how desirable I appear, but by how disciplined I remain. It's you realizing that your power isn't in being chosen, it's in being selective. When you understand that, you no longer need to chase validation because you've already validated yourself. And the moment you do, the world adjusts to your energy. People sense it. They can feel that you can't be manipulated with flattery or controlled with fear. You become grounded, untouchable, and radiant in a way that can't be faked. So stop begging to be seen. Stop asking to be chosen. Start acting like you already are, because you are. Your worth isn't something to be proven, it's something to be protected. And the moment you finally believe that, you won't have to demand respect. You'll naturally command it. Boundaries are one of the most powerful forms of self-respect you will ever practice. They are not walls meant to isolate you. They are doors with locks. You decide who gets access, how much, and when. Too many women mistake being kind for being endlessly available, being compassionate for being a doormat. They think that saying no will make them cold, selfish, or unlovable. But boundaries are not about rejecting others. They are about protecting yourself. They are the invisible lines that define where you end. And the world begins. Without them, your peace becomes public property. Your time becomes everyone's playground. And your heart becomes an open field for anyone to walk through, whether they deserve it or not. When you start setting boundaries, you will feel resistance, both from others and from within yourself. People who benefited from your lack of limits will not celebrate your new strength. They'll call you difficult, changed, or unreasonable. They'll miss the version of you who overextended, who tolerated their behavior, who apologized for having needs. And that's when you'll realize your boundaries will offend those who were comfortable crossing them. That's not your problem to fix. Your job is not to make people comfortable with your growth. It's to stay loyal to your peace. The truth is, boundaries are a reflection of your standards. You can't claim to value peace and keep entertaining chaos. You can't preach self-love and keep tolerating disrespect. Every time you ignore your own discomfort just to avoid conflict, you're teaching the world that your feelings are negotiable. But when you honor your limits, you teach people how to treat you. You stop communicating through anger, resentment, and exhaustion, and instead communicate through consistency and clarity. Boundaries don't push people away. They filter out the ones who were never supposed to stay. A high-value woman doesn't set boundaries from fear. She sets them from strength. She's not trying to control anyone. She's simply protecting the environment where her energy thrives. She knows that love without boundaries becomes self-sacrifice. Friendship without boundaries becomes emotional labor. Work without boundaries becomes burnout. Boundaries aren't just about saying no to others. They're about saying yes to yourself. Yes to your rest. Yes to your priorities. Yes to your emotional health. When you don't have boundaries, you live in a constant state of overextension. You overgive, overthink, and overexplain. You become addicted to people-pleasing because you think that being liked equals being safe. But people-pleasing is a silent form of self-betrayal. You trade authenticity for acceptance. You mold yourself to fit into other people's comfort zones, forgetting that your comfort matters too. The cost of that trade is heavy. It's exhaustion, resentment, and emotional emptiness. Because no matter how much you give, it's never enough for people who take without limits. But here's where the shift happens. When you finally draw a line and mean it. When you start saying, no, I'm not available for that. No, that doesn't work for me. No, I won't tolerate being spoken to like that. You begin to reclaim your power, piece by piece. You stop reacting to every demand and start choosing your responses. You stop rushing to fix everyone's emotions and start managing your own. The more you practice it, the more peace you'll feel. Not because the world changed, but because you did. And yes, boundaries will test your courage. They will test your emotional discipline. Sometimes setting one will mean losing people you love. But if protecting your peace costs you a relationship, it wasn't a relationship built on respect. It was built on your compliance. A healthy connection can handle boundaries. In fact, it thrives with them. People who truly value you will respect your limits, not guilt trip you for having them. They'll appreciate your honesty because it creates clarity. But people who only value your compliance will see your boundaries as rebellion. Let them go. Let them misunderstand you. You don't owe anyone access at the expense of your well-being. Setting boundaries doesn't require you to be loud or confrontational. Often it's quiet. It's in your silence when someone tries to provoke you. It's in your distance when someone repeatedly disrespects you. It's in your decision to no longer explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Sometimes the most powerful boundary is walking away, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Boundaries also apply to your inner world. It's not just about people. It's about protecting your own thoughts. Stop allowing your mind to replay painful memories. Stop overanalyzing people's behavior as if their actions define your worth. You need mental boundaries too. Protect your mind from the noise that tells you you're too much or not enough. Protect your energy from self-doubt and guilt. The same way you wouldn't let someone dump garbage into your home. Don't let toxic narratives take space in your head. There's a peace that comes when you finally stop trying to control how others perceive your boundaries. You stop needing everyone to understand, and you start being okay with being misunderstood. You realize that saying no doesn't make you mean. It makes you clear. And clarity is power. You stop explaining your choices to people who never respected your confusion. You stop apologizing for being unavailable to drama, gossip, or disrespect. You start building a life around peace instead of chaos, around intention instead of obligation. People often say, but what if setting boundaries makes me lose people? And I always say, what if it helps you find yourself? You can't build self-respect without boundaries. You can't live authentically while constantly betraying your own needs. You can't grow while stuck in environments that suffocate your spirit. Boundaries are not the end of connection. They are the beginning of healthy ones. They create relationships built on mutual respect instead of silent resentment. So don't be afraid to be the woman who says no. Don't be afraid to be the one who chooses peace over people-pleasing. Because every no you give to something unaligned is a yes to something greater. You will never regret protecting your peace. You will never regret choosing self-respect. And the more you practice boundaries, the less chaos will find you. Because chaos can't survive in the presence of clarity. You become powerful not by controlling others, but by controlling access to yourself. And that right there is the mark of a woman who knows her worth. She no longer begs to be treated right. She expects it. She no longer fights for attention. She commands respect through her energy. She no longer explains her standards. She embodies them. Because boundaries are not barriers. They are your blueprint for peace, your proof of self-love, and your ultimate superpower. Emotional discipline is one of the rarest and most misunderstood forms of feminine strength. The world often teaches women that being emotional is weakness, that crying, feeling deeply, or caring too much makes them fragile. But emotional discipline isn't about suppressing your emotions, it's about mastering them. It's about having the self-awareness to know what you feel, the self-control to choose how you respond, and the self-respect to not let anyone else dictate your peace. There's a quiet, magnetic power in a woman who doesn't react to chaos, who doesn't allow others to pull her out of alignment, who knows how to stay centered even when provoked. That is real elegance. That is real strength. People confuse emotional discipline with detachment, but they are not the same. Detachment is running from your emotions. Discipline is understanding them. When you're emotionally disciplined, you don't numb yourself to life. You experience it fully without letting it consume you. You still feel anger, sadness, and disappointment, but you don't let those emotions control your actions or define your identity. You can be heartbroken and still composed, hurt and still kind, disappointed and still dignified. That balance, that ability to hold your emotions without letting them leak into your behavior, that's where your feminine power lives. Think about how often emotional chaos leads people to decisions they later regret. They send that text in anger, argue to win, instead of understand, stay in situations just to prove a point or react to every disrespect like it deserves a response. Emotional discipline is the art of pausing. It's the wisdom to say, not every comment deserves my energy. Not every battle deserves my presence. Not every situation requires my reaction. The power of a pause can change your life. Because in that pause, you regain control. You stop being a puppet to other people's triggers. You start responding from your values instead of reacting from your wounds. There's something deeply captivating about a woman who remains calm when others expect her to fall apart. Her calmness isn't weakness, it's command. She knows that anger gives away her power. She knows that matching someone's disrespect only brings her down to their level. She knows that her silence can speak louder than 1,000 arguments. When you've mastered your emotions, you stop letting others use yours against you. People can't manipulate a woman who doesn't react. They can't guilt trip her, gaslight her, or provoke her into losing her composure. Because she understands that composure is not passivity, it's strategy. Emotional discipline doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you start feeling with intelligence. You observe your emotions like waves, you watch them rise, you let them crash, but you don't drown in them. You understand that emotions are temporary states, not permanent truths. The anger will fade, the sadness will pass, and the disappointment will teach you something, if you let it. A woman who knows how to sit with her emotions, instead of running from them, becomes unstoppable because nothing can shake her foundation. She becomes the eye of the storm, calm, grounded, unmovable. To reach that level of strength, you have to first unlearn the belief that emotional outbursts prove passion or authenticity. The truth is, real emotional maturity is quiet. It's graceful. It's not about pretending you're fine. It's about knowing you will be fine, even when things hurt. It's the ability to self-soothe instead of self-sabotage. It's choosing to breathe instead of blame, to reflect instead of react, to respond from clarity instead of confusion. When you master this, you stop needing closure from others because you give it to yourself. You stop waiting for apologies that may never come because you've already forgiven yourself for staying too long. Emotional discipline also teaches you discernment, the wisdom to know when to engage and when to let go. Not everything requires your reaction, and not everyone deserves an explanation. Sometimes peace is found in walking away, not because you don't care, but because you finally do. About yourself. When you let people's behavior dictate your emotions, you hand them control over your peace. But when you decide that no one has that kind of power over you, you step into full emotional sovereignty. That's where your true femininity radiates from. The kind that's soft yet strong, warm yet unwavering, graceful yet guarded. This kind of power changes the way you move through life. You no longer need to raise your voice to prove a point. You no longer seek revenge to feel validated. You no longer let temporary feelings create permanent damage. You learn to trust your calm more than your chaos. You start to realize that not reacting is not weakness. It's wisdom. You become selective with your energy, careful with your words, and intentional with your silence. You stop chasing validation and start valuing peace. Because once you've tasted peace, drama becomes intolerable. It takes emotional strength to not respond to every insult, to not chase closure from every betrayal, to not justify your worth to every skeptic. But that restraint is what separates you from the average. It's what gives your presence. When you can stand in the middle of uncertainty and not let it rattle your spirit, you become magnetic. People will feel your calm before they hear your words. They will sense your strength even when you're silent. Emotional discipline gives you that aura, that quiet confidence that says, I know who I am, and nothing you do can make me forget that. Of course, this kind of mastery doesn't happen overnight. It takes awareness, reflection, and patience. It takes catching yourself in the moment, when you want to react, but you don't. When you want to argue, but you choose silence. When you want to prove your worth, but you walk away instead. Every time you do that, you strengthen your emotional muscles. You become less reactive, more intentional. You start leading your emotions instead of being led by them. The truth is, emotional discipline is freedom. It frees you from the grip of other people's behavior, from the chaos of impulsive decisions, from the exhaustion of emotional roller coasters. It allows you to move with purpose, not pressure. It allows you to love without losing yourself. It allows you to forgive without forgetting your standards. That's what makes it so powerful. Because when you master your emotions, you master your life. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, remember this, your reaction is your power. Don't give it away. Hold your peace like it's gold, because it is. Let your calm be your comeback. Let your silence be your strength. Let your emotional control be your elegance. Because a woman who can control her emotions doesn't just survive the storm. She is the storm. And the world listens when she moves. Investing in yourself is the most powerful decision you will ever make. Because everything in your life, every relationship, every opportunity, every level of success will rise or fall to meet the standards you set for yourself. The world reflects how you treat you. When you neglect your growth, you attract neglect. When you doubt your worth, you invite people who mirror that doubt. But when you decide to pour into yourself, to develop your mind, strengthen your body, and nurture your soul, you become the kind of woman who no longer chases validation or opportunities. She creates them. Investing in yourself isn't about perfection, it's about progression. It's the daily commitment to evolve, to learn, to upgrade your mindset, and to never stay the same version of yourself for too long. Growth is uncomfortable. It demands sacrifice. It means saying no to distractions, to temporary pleasures, and sometimes even to people who don't align with your vision. But that discomfort is a sign that you're moving closer to your potential. You can't become extraordinary while living in the comfort of the ordinary. The truth is, no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to hand you the life you dream about. You build it. You work for it. You earn it by refusing to settle for mediocrity. You have to take full ownership of your development, physically, emotionally, mentally, and financially, because the moment you outsource your growth, you give away your power. A high-value woman doesn't wait for someone to invest in her. She becomes the investment. Start with your mind, because your thoughts shape your reality. Feed it with knowledge, not gossip. Read books that challenge your perspective. Listen to voices that expand your thinking. And surround yourself with people who talk about ideas, not people. Every time you expose your mind to something new, you sharpen your awareness. You become more strategic, more confident, more discerning. The more you learn, the harder it becomes for anyone to manipulate you. Education, in all its forms, is one of the most elegant displays of self-respect. It says, I take myself seriously enough to keep growing. But mental growth means nothing if you're not taking care of your body. Your body is the vehicle that carries your purpose. Treat it with respect. Move it. Nourish it. Rest it. Not because of how it looks, but because of how it allows you to show up in the world. When you're strong physically, you're more resilient. Mentally, you handle stress better. You recover faster. And you project confidence without saying a word. Discipline in how you care for yourself translates into discipline in every other area of your life. Investing in yourself also means protecting your energy. That means detoxing from environments, habits, and people that drain you. You cannot build a powerful life around people who are committed to their own smallness. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It's strategic. When your energy is scattered, your focus is weak. When your focus is weak, your progress slows. You have to be intentional about where your time and energy go, because both are finite. Not everyone deserves access to you, and not every situation deserves your involvement. Financially, investing in yourself means learning how to create stability and independence. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it gives you choices, and choices give you peace. A high-value woman doesn't depend on others for her survival. She builds her own foundation. She learns how to earn, how to manage, and how to grow what she has. Financial literacy is not about greed. It's about freedom. It's the ability to make decisions from empowerment instead of desperation. When you can stand on your own 2 feet, you love differently, you think differently, and you move differently. Self-investment is also about emotional healing. You can't evolve while carrying the weight of old wounds. You have to face your pain, not avoid it. You have to look at the patterns that keep repeating, the fears that keep resurfacing, the insecurities that keep whispering that you're not enough. Healing is not weakness, it's courage. It's choosing to stop running from your reflection and start repairing the relationship you have with yourself. When you heal, you stop attracting chaos disguised as connection. You start recognizing peace as the new standard. Investing in yourself also means celebrating your solitude. Too many people are afraid of being alone because they've tied their identity to others. But solitude is where self-discovery begins. It's where you learn your real preferences, your real passions, your real boundaries. When you know who you are alone, you stop getting lost in who you are with others. You stop attaching your worth to being chosen, and instead, you choose yourself every single day. There will be times when this journey feels lonely. Growth often is. You'll outgrow environments, friendships, and habits that once felt comfortable. But understand that emptiness you feel when you start changing is not loss. It's space. Space for new energy, new opportunities, new versions of you. Don't fill that space out of fear. Protect it until it's filled with what's worthy of your new level. Investing in yourself relentlessly also means being patient with your process. You can't plant seeds today and expect a forest tomorrow. Transformation takes time. You have to show up even when it feels slow, even when no one notices, even when the results aren't visible yet. Because progress happens quietly and consistency always wins. Every book you read, every morning you show up for yourself, every boundary you enforce, every habit you build, it compounds. Over time, those small, invisible acts of self-respect will create a life that looks like freedom. And here's the truth most people never realize. When you start investing in yourself, the world recalibrates around you. Opportunities find you. People treat you differently. You stop needing to chase love or success because your energy starts attracting it. When you elevate your standards internally, your external world rises to match it. You become magnetic, not because you're trying to prove your worth, but because you've embodied it. So invest relentlessly, not just when it's convenient, but when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because those are the moments that define you. Wake up every day and do something that moves you closer to the woman you're becoming. Read the book, take the class, go to the gym, start the business, say the no, keep your promise to yourself. Because one day you'll look back and realize that every choice you made to grow, every sacrifice, every boundary, every ounce of discipline was worth it. The most high-value woman isn't the one who has the most attention. It's the one who has built herself from the ground up, mentally strong, emotionally grounded, financially independent, and spiritually at peace. She doesn't need to prove her value to anyone because she's invested so deeply in herself that her life speaks for her. That is what it means to be truly rich. Not in possessions, but in self-respect, peace, and purpose. Peace is the ultimate form of power. It's what every strong woman eventually learns to prioritize after life has shown her the cost of chaos. Choosing peace over drama and standards over settling isn't about being emotionless or detached. It's about maturity. It's about realizing that peace isn't boring, it's stability. That standards aren't about being difficult, they're about self-respect. And once you taste real peace, you'll never again be impressed by chaos disguised as excitement. Too often we're conditioned to equate emotional intensity with love. The constant arguing, the back and forth, the adrenaline rush of toxic attachment. It feels thrilling in the moment, but it leaves you drained and insecure. Drama tricks you into you're alive when really it's just keeping you distracted from your emptiness. Peace, on the other hand, is calm. It's consistent. It doesn't chase. It doesn't beg. It doesn't compete. But because we're so used to chaos, peace can feel unfamiliar. We confuse it with boredom. Because we've been taught that love must hurt to be real, that growth must be loud to be valid. The truth is, peace is quiet, and that's what makes it powerful. Choosing peace means walking away from anything that threatens your mental clarity. Arguments that go nowhere, people who feed off drama, situations that pull you out of character. It's realizing that not every action deserves a reaction, and not every insult deserves a response. A high-value woman doesn't chase closure. She creates it. She doesn't explain her decisions to those who never respected her boundaries in the first place. She understands that silence is not weakness, it's strategy. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. When you choose peace, you become protective of your energy. You stop entertaining people who bring storms into your calm. You stop explaining your intentions to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop justifying your boundaries to people who never had any for you. And yes, it can feel isolating at first, but that solitude is sacred. Because peace isn't found in perfect circumstances. It's found in your ability to stay centered no matter what happens around you. But peace can't coexist with settling. Because settling is self-betrayal. It's accepting less than what aligns with your worth just to avoid being alone or uncomfortable. Every time you settle, you silence a part of yourself that knows you deserve better. You tell that inner voice, this is good enough, when it's not. You shrink to fit relationships, environments, and standards that were never meant for the woman you're becoming. Settling might give you temporary comfort, but it robs you of long-term peace. It keeps you stuck in situations that require you to keep lowering your standards just to maintain them. Standards are not about perfection. They're about alignment. They're not a checklist. They're boundaries that protect your peace. When you have standards, you're not saying, I'm better than you. You're saying, I've worked too hard on myself to go backwards. You're saying, I know my worth, and I refuse to discount it for convenience. A woman with standards knows that not everyone will meet them, and that's okay. Standards aren't meant to attract everyone. They're meant to filter out the wrong one. Choosing standards over settling means you're willing to wait. You're willing to walk alone until what's meant for you arrives. It's hard because the world will try to convince you that you're being too picky, too proud, too independent. But what you're really being is disciplined. You're refusing to trade your peace for validation, your self-respect for attention, or your time for potential. That's strength. And yes, maintaining standards requires courage, because it means risking loneliness. It means facing those quiet nights where doubt creeps in and whispers, maybe I'm asking for too much. But you're not. You're just asking the wrong people. The right people won't make you lower your standards to keep them. They'll rise to meet you there. The right environment won't make you shrink to fit in. It will expand to fit your light. Peace and standards go hand in hand because one protects the other. Without standards, you'll constantly find yourself in situations that destroy your peace. Without peace, you'll never have the clarity to uphold your standards. You can't think clearly when you're living in constant emotional noise. You can't evolve when your energy is consumed by chaos. The moment you choose peace, you begin to see who and what no longer aligns with you. And that realization changes everything. You'll start losing interest in certain conversations, certain people, certain habits. That's not arrogance, that's growth. You're no longer entertained by negativity because you've outgrown it. You're no longer moved by people's inconsistency because you've learned how to stay grounded. You're no longer desperate to be understood because you've made peace with being misunderstood. That's what evolution feels like. Detachment from anything that disturbs your peace. There will be people who call you too calm, too serious, or too distant. Ignore them. They're still addicted to the drama you've outgrown. Let them. You're not responsible for matching their energy. You're responsible for maintaining your peace. Remember, peace isn't about avoiding problems. It's about how you handle them. It's about responding from wisdom instead of reacting from emotion. It's about mastering yourself so deeply that chaos no longer gets a reaction out of you. The truth is, when you choose peace and keep your standards high, you start operating on a frequency that drama can't reach. You stop being available for gossip, manipulation, or disrespect. You attract people who value stability, not confusion. You start thriving instead of surviving. You stop explaining your standards because your energy speaks for them. You stop fighting for places that drain you and start building ones that nurture you. And eventually you realize something profound. Peace isn't something you find. It's something you create. It's a lifestyle, a mindset, a daily decision. Every time you walk away from something that doesn't serve you, you're choosing peace. Every time you enforce a boundary, you're choosing peace. Every time you say no to what doesn't align, you're choosing peace. It's not a one-time choice. It's a lifetime practice. So choose peace, even when it's lonely, even when it's misunderstood, even when it costs you. Choose standards, even when they make others uncomfortable, even when they test your patience, even when they leave you waiting longer than you'd like, because peace will sustain you in ways that chaos never will, and standards will attract a life that settling never could. When you hold both sacred, you stop living reactively and start living intentionally. The moment you stop craving chaos and start craving calm, you'll know you've leveled up. You'll understand that your peace is not negotiable and your standards are not flexible. That's when you truly become unstoppable, Not because you have control over others, but because you finally have control over yourself. Becoming a high-value woman isn't about being above anyone. It's about finally rising above the version of yourself that tolerated less. It's about stepping into the life you deserve because you've done the work to earn it. It's knowing that your power was never in how much you could give, but in how much you could protect your time, your energy, your peace, your worth. You see, the world will always test you. It will try to pull you back into your old habits, old attachments, old insecurities. It will try to convince you that softness means weakness and that independence means loneliness. But you're wiser now. You've learned that true strength doesn't shout. It stands still. It's in your silence when provoked. It's in your boundaries when pressured. It's in your grace when disrespected. You've learned that you don't need to prove your value. You embody it. You don't need to chase love. You attract it. You don't need to beg for peace. You create it. Every time you choose to elevate instead of react, to walk away instead of argue, to wait instead of settle, you're proving your evolution. You're not becoming colder. You're becoming clearer. You're not becoming harder. You're becoming wiser. And maybe not everyone will understand this version of you. That's okay. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be respected. You're not here to please people. You're here to honor yourself. The woman you were before was built on survival. The woman you're becoming is built on self-mastery. So from this moment forward, stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. Stop shrinking your standards to fit small places. Stop explaining your peace to people who thrive on chaos. You've earned the right to be selective, to be grounded, to be at peace. Remember this, the world doesn't respect noise. It respects presence. You don't have to announce that you're high value. You simply have to live like it. And when you do, life starts to mirror that energy back to you. So stand tall. Move with intention. Protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. You are the storm and the calm after it. You are the lesson and the light. You are not just a high-value woman. You are a woman who finally remembers who she is. And once a woman remembers her worth, there's no going back.